Hear me, blooded heirs of those proud men who ventured into the darkness to slay those monsters in kings past. I call you to a final Aegon to win your own glory. 9 gods have betrayed me and now demand cruel revenge. For 7 days, at the turn of 7 years, will they walk as mortals, so you men and all your heirs henceforth may break your own fated path and turn your thread of life to immortal gold. Reveal your strength and skills, and I will reward you with the mantle and deathless power of the god whose blood stains your bold blade. For this chance, I ask much. Gather at the navel of the known world and begin your hunt when the day is born. So it shall be until that final day, when one remains who is remade whole. What would you do with the power of a Greek god? Would you protect your family? Protect yourself. If you inherited the power of healing, could you also create a disease? A disease so deadly that only you could cure it? These are the questions that are asked and answered in the book Lore by Alexandra Bracken. Lore follows our main protagonist, Milorda Perseus, who is the last surviving descendant of Perseus, the mythological Greek hero who slayed Medusa. Her family having been slaughtered after the end of the previous Aegon, Lore wants absolutely nothing to do with the next one that happens in a matter of hours, minutes even. But fate, in this book, has a different plan. Long ago, 9 Greek gods grew tired of humanity no longer showing them faith, or unwavering faith even, or blessings or anything, or no longer praising them. They got tired of it. So what did they do? They started a little bit of a war. And by a little bit, I mean a huge one. The 9 Greek gods at fault here are Athena, the twins Artemis and Apollo, Poseidon, Hephaestus, Aphrodite, Dionysus, Hermes, and Ares. In their anger, and also in their conniving, the 9 gods created plagues, like the plague of Justinian, in order to convince people, humans, to start praising them again, in hopes that they'd beg for protection against the plagues themselves, and also start worshipping them. When Zeus stepped in eventually and told them to stop, the 9 refused, and in fact they went against Zeus, even going so far as attempting a usurping, of which Zeus did not appreciate. As we can expect, Zeus did not like this and bound the 9 rebels into a fate known as the Aegon. For every 7 days, in every 7 years, these 9 gods are made mortal with only a fraction of their power to protect them. They are forced into the real world and told that they need to survive. The gods were helpless. Should a mortal be successful in killing the newly made mortal god within the week of the Aegon, that mortal would then become a new version of the god that they killed. But not just any mortal could go and claim their power. There were specifically 9 sets of heroes that were chosen for the job. The 9 families are, and forgive me if I get these heroes' names a little bit wrong, are Cadmedes, the descendants of Cadmus, wearing the mark of the serpent. The Odysseys, descendants of Odysseus, wearing the mark of the Trojan horse. The Thessides, descendants of Theseus, wearing the mark of the Minotaur. The Acolytes, descendants of Achilles, wearing the mark of the warrior. The Persides, descendants of Perseus, wearing the mark of Medusa. Meleagrides, descendants of Meleager, that were wearing the mark of the Caledonian boar. The Bellerophonides, descendants of Bellerophon, wearing the mark of Pegasus. Jasonides, descendants of Jason, wearing the mark of the ram. And Heraclides, descendants of Heracles, wearing the mark of the Nemean lion. Claiming the power of a god can be incredibly helpful, exhilarating even, but when people start to forget their anger towards the actual gods who started it all, and start turning that anger toward yourself and placing the benefit in your own hands, the superficial trust that was once there that bound those families together starts to deteriorate. Families start wars against themselves. What once might have been even perhaps a bonding experience between the 9 families against the gods that created so much pain for them, quickly turned into a power-hungry and bloodthirsty declaration of power and the lengths those families would go in order to protect that power. If a family claimed a god, a family would protect their new gods by any means necessary. After all, they were just as mortal as them during the week of the Aegon as what they were as any other mortal. They had to be protected. You had to protect your own power. You had to protect your familial asset. In turn, the new god would repay their family's protection with something that they could provide with their new godhood, essentially something that they can nurture in between the 7 years of each Aegon. Let me give you a couple examples. Perhaps the new Aphrodite could lead their mortal family into vast Hollywood experiences, vast money-making, extremely huge money-making deals within Hollywood. A new Ares could inflame international conflicts in order to support their family's investments in weapons manufacturing. A new Dionysus could start a megachurch or a doomsday cult. The ideas and investments were only limited by the new god's creativity, ideas, and the family's willingness to follow them. Anything was fair play. But what better way to protect your god than to wipe out the other competition. A blood oath sworn between the families protected the 9 families in between the years of each Aegon. Nothing could be touched within those 7 years. But during the week of the Aegon, everything was free game. There's nothing stopping them from hurting each other during the Aegon. At the start of the book, 4 of the 9 families that started this Aegon are gone, no longer exist. Those families are Meleager, Bellerophon, Jason, and Heracles. They are no more. So, what happened to Lor's family that nearly wiped them all out? Were they too powerful? Were they too big to guarantee any sort of safety for the other families that were participating in the Aegon? Did they form some sort of unity in order to gang up on them and take them out while they could? No. What happened was that a woman became a god. A woman in the Perseus family became the new Poseidon. Yep, that's what happened. There's a rule, a fundamental belief, that only the men could ascend to godhood. In particular, only the agreed-upon head of household, the Archon, could do so. If the Archon were to die, or to ascend to godhood, the next in line male would become the new Archon. So whether a son, a brother, a nephew, a cousin, anything, the next in line boy would become the new head of household. In this way, succession is a little clearer because everybody takes on the last name of the father. The patriarchy is linear. You can see it. However, it also is incredibly sexist. For centuries, none of the families were even sure it was possible for a woman to ascend to godhood. No one even dared try. So, when 14 cycles ago, a woman in Lor's family became a god, there was an uproar. And not in confidence. But this woman didn't just become any old god. This woman became the new Poseidon. She killed the original Poseidon. She wasn't a reincarnation of a carnation. She killed the original Poseidon. Her family abandoned her. She was shunned by the Perseids. She was forced into hiding Aegon after Aegon because none of her family vowed to even bother to protect her. They just shunned her and threw her out on her own. Lore was even taught over and over and over again that Rhea Perseus was wrong, that she should not have done what she done. It was wrong for a woman to even dare try to become a god. The ascension of her shook their world too much. The idea was too dangerous to the rest of her family, so they got rid of her. They didn't kill her. But they did just kind of get rid of her out of sight, out of mind sort of way. To ensure this heinous act of a woman ever claiming power never happened again, the rest of the surviving families, led by the Cadmeads, destroyed almost the entire Perseus bloodline. They left only Lor's great-great-grandfather to live. Do you want to know why they left him? Because he was away at university. He didn't come home for the Aegon. He didn't come home for the week-long hunt that happened. No. Rhea's great-great-grandfather decided, I'm gonna stay at school this year. And then he lived. The rest of his family, dead. Stay in school. Oh my god, it'll help you live. To humiliate him further, because apparently killing your entire family is just simply not enough, they split up the Perseus' family's store of weapons, armor, and divided up their lucrative shipping business and textile business that they had, and divvied it up amongst the families that helped murder the entire Perseus bloodline. And, as a final insult to injury, they gave the Perseus' godly inheritance from Zeus himself, the Aegis Shield. They gave it to the Archon that called for this attack. They gave it to the man that planned it all out. They gave it to the Archon of the Cadmeads. You might be a little confused. Godly gifts, godly inheritance. It is explained in the book. Each of the 9 families were given their own godly inheritance from Zeus himself at the start of the very first Aegon. These gifts were considered prized possessions from the gods themselves, especially the gods that rebelled against Zeus. He took their most cherished gifts, split them up, and then gave them to the families. There were caveats to this gift, however. Only members of your bloodline could use the given gifts. No one else in any other bloodline could use the gift that you were given. And, also, if all the members of that bloodline went extinct, the gift itself would cease to exist. It would just be snapped out of existence. It would not happen anymore. It would not exist. So that means at the start of the book, logically, if there are 4 families that cease to exist anymore, that means that there are 4 godly gifts that don't exist, that are not there anymore. Not only was Lor's great-great-grandfather spared for the sole purpose of humiliation, he was also spared because the Perseuses, or the parasites, were thought to have had the most coveted gift. the Age is sealed. And none of the families wanted that gift to be taken away or cease to exist, so they decided to keep one person living in order to ensure the survival of the Age is sealed. This happens again when Lore's own family, Lore's very own personal family, is targeted once again by the Cadmeids at the beginning of the book, specifically the Archon of the Cadmeids. Her mother and father and 2 sisters are killed by the nastiest, most vile man that Lore has ever had the displeasure of knowing, the Archon of the Cadmeids himself. So the first mass extinction, I guess you could say, of Lore's family was done by an old Archon of the Cadmeids. The second one is done by a new Archon of the Cadmeids with the same and sole purpose of keeping the Ages alive, but this time, the Archon of the Cadmeids that did it for this time around, the second time around, has become the new Ares, dubbing himself as Wrath. Wrath became the new name for his chosen godlike form, and Wrath needed the Aegis shield for his own personal gain. So, when returning home on the very, very first day of the Aegon, of this new Aegon that comes up, and she sees a severely wounded, bleeding woman on her doorstep, Lore immediately knows that something is not right. The Aegon that she so desperately does not want to be a part of, she has been brought dragging, kicking, and screaming back into it, and she does not want to be there. She cannot escape her fate. Not this time. The woman is revealed to be Athena. Athena is one of the only original gods left in this Aegon. Athena was wounded in a fight against Wrath, Wrath being driven by the goal of wanting to be the only god left ever in the entire Aegon. So Wrath is going on a god hunt to kill the rest of all the gods. Original, unoriginal, reincarnations. Wrath wants to be the only god left standing. Athena tells Lore that she knows who killed Lore's family. So does Lore. Athena comes up with a bargain. Help her take down the Archon of the Cadmeids. Help her kill what she calls a false god. Athena gets her revenge. So does Lore. The perfect union. Throughout the book, Lore keeps a secret from us, as the reader. We can only really make educated guesses as to why and how her mother, her father, and 2 little sisters were murdered at the end of the previous Aegon, but with little context clues and inferences here and there, we can sort of put the puzzle pieces together. However, we get nothing as so clear as a perfect answer and a clear and concise answer until the very, very almost end of the book. You can make a pretty great guess, actually, but I assure you, you will not see the twist that is coming at the end. I did not. I certainly didn't. But then again, maybe you will. Like, I consider myself pretty skilled at foreshadowing and kind of picking up inferences and little clues here and there, and I missed it completely. Missed it. I don't know how she wrote it in the way that she did, but I did not see it coming. Now, when I probably read back and I can look at it again, I can probably pick up clearer, but on the first read through, I did not pick up on it at all. And to be honest, I really, really like that. Alexandra Bracken, the author of this book, once again, did a really, really good job at keeping me surprised, keeping me entertained. I never thought, oh, I don't want to read this anymore because I already know what's going to happen. I never thought that because I was just so engaged and so perfectly just like into the story at all times. It was insanely, oh goodness, it was written insanely well. Let me just say that. However, I do have to say, while there are some areas that I would like to see improvement on, overall, I'm very satisfied. There are some moments in this book that go incredibly fast, with lots of information in very short amounts of time. And then when you read further, and then something gets brought back up again, you're like, wait, what? I don't remember that. And then you have to flip back a whole bunch of pages and then realize it was one singular line, a piece of information in one singular line in such a big paragraph that got brought back up again, and you missed it because it was a scene of action. It was going by so quickly. So while that was a little annoying sometimes, that only happened a couple times, I would say maybe 4 times at most, where I was just like, wait a minute, let me just go back real quick and just read it. So it was a little annoying, and I wish it would have been brought up at least a little bit more, but you know, overall, it was pretty good. There's also a moment in here where it's revealed that a godly gift that is supposed to be extinct or cease to exist by now is actually still in play. A family that does not exist anymore still has a godly gift that is still somehow in motion, somehow in the story. However, this could be explained by the knowledge that if a familial gift is freely given to a member of another family, then that person can also use that godly gift as though it were their own. But it has to be freely given. It's possible that I could have just skipped over that piece of information. Like I said, it went by very, very quickly. So when it came down to it and towards the end of the book and it came up again and I was just like, oh, wait a minute, like that doesn't make sense. It should just be out of play. I just skipped that piece of vital information. I was a little bit confused for like a little while. At first I was just like, oh, okay, I guess, but then I was like, oh yeah, like if a gift is freely given, then it's fine, like you can still use it as though it's your own. And I guess maybe I missed it when she said that this gift was freely given, or it just was sort of implied that we should know that some gifts were freely given, or at least freely given, you know, if you know what I mean, just kind of forced upon them. I wish it would have been a little bit more fleshed out, but like I said, overall, this book is pretty good. In that sense, like I said, I wish it was at least a little bit different, maybe mentioning injuries or gifts that were given away more than once, but did it hinder my reading and enjoying experience at all? No. I really, really, really enjoyed this book overall. I think if you decide to give it a shot, it's pretty great. This book, if you want it, if you want like a sort of feel of the book. It feels like an older Percy Jackson in a way. If you really liked Greek mythology and you like Percy Jackson a lot as a kid, or the Heroes of Olympus, or literally anything by Rick Riordan, to be completely honest, this is a really good book. It's much along the lines of what I think we're going to get actually within the new Percy Jackson that is coming out, what I believe is called, what is it, the Champions of Olympus or something like that? Chalice of the Gods? Something. Here, I'll put up a picture of it. This one. If you want to ease yourself back into the world of Greek mythological fantasy, this is the story for you. I mean, for Pete's sake, like, the entire book actually takes place in New York. So, I mean, if you want, like, a Percy Jackson-esque sort of book that takes place within the same sort of area, Manhattan, New York, kind of, this is it. This is your book. For my final rating, I'm gonna give Lore, like I said, by Alexandra Bracken, I guess a 4.5 out of 5. A 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5, somewhere in there, 4.25, let's say. Like I said, really the only the doubling back made me sort of kind of dock a little bit of points. That was kind of the only thing that I didn't really particularly enjoy, but like I said, it didn't really hinder my reading experience or enjoyness? It didn't really hinder my enjoyment of the book at all. I very much liked it, and I would read it again. Castor. If anything, I'm rereading this book for Castor. Oh my god. He's a good boy. If you're looking for a character-driven story, this is the story for you. The characters were believable and had faults that were in line with their character. Characters were still believable, although sometimes insufferably stubborn. But that's okay, because Bracken had made their characters' qualities known at the beginning. You knew that they were going to be a stubborn person, and then they act in a stubborn manner. You knew it was going to happen. You expect it to happen. They act within their personality, and that's great. Actions are believable, though sometimes admittedly not that well thought out. In our characters, they admit the faults that they have. They're self-aware, and they're apologetic when they mess up. There's even some pretty funny and out-of-pocket moments that really genuinely got a good laugh out of me. Not just a chuckle, like a really good laugh. Like I had to put the book down a little bit and just be like, oh my god, that was really funny, and then come back into it. I think Bracken's writing style and writings of her characters feel like a breath of fresh air, and if you're really looking for something that's character-driven with a good amount of banter, or just like stubbornness and then apologetic when you need to be, a really good growth story, character arcs galore, Lore is genuinely a very, very good read. Like I said, 4.5 out of 5. I'll give it. It was a pretty good one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think this is what I kind of want to try and get into. Most of my life I've been into reading, and I love reading and all that stuff, so I'm really glad that I'm going to try and get into it now. I finally found a note-taking method that works with my brain. The next book that I'm going to read is going to be House of the Cerulean Sea. Somewhere on screen it's going to be, because it's upstairs right now, and I don't feel like going upstairs to go get it. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I don't know when the next video is going to be out. It's as soon as I finish reading the next book and as soon as I start writing the script. So maybe, hopefully, within the next month. Anyway, my name is Danie Larsen. I really hope that you liked this book review of Lore by Alexandra Bracken, and I hope to see you guys again. See you later. Whoa.